Hi, welcome back. As you can see, this week and next week, we're going to be talking about a subject area of law enforcement or police. And this week, we're going to talk about police purpose and organization. And really, some of it will be a little bit redundant from last week. From the other chapter that I recorded for policing from common law. And so, as you know, policing in America, they are at the forefront of the criminal justice process. They're the only experience most people have sometimes with the criminal justice process is the contact with the local law enforcement officer. Most people, in fact, have never been to a courthouse for a criminal matter or in jail or prison for any reason. So really, the gatekeepers would be the police for a large portion of people. Americans expect from the police depends on how we view their role. So different people have different role expectations from the local police. When the police expectations differ from the official role conduct, officers may in fact suffer from that role. When we look at the role expectations and conflict, the role is the rights and responsibilities associated with a particular person. And then the expectation is the behavior and actions that we should expect from that person in that role. And then the conflict is the psychological stress and frustration that results from trying to perform two or more incompatible responsibilities. When we look at the roles of the police, we say that not everyone views the police in the same way. The majority of perspectives consider the police community leaders, that they possess broad discretion, that they solve problems on a short-term basis, and that they often serve in hostile or dangerous environments. Characteristics of police work: they have quick decision making, they have to work independently. A lot of times it's dirty work, and we'll talk a little bit further about the danger and some of the problems with policing. The conflicting part is that Americans have never been sure what role they want police officers. Do they want them as peacekeepers? Do they want them as social workers? Do they want them as crime fighters, or do they want them as public servants? And this conflicting role we see in the 19th century, where police acted as peacekeepers, and then they served social service agents feeding the hungry and housing the homeless. But then in 1920s, that role focused more into crime fighting. And then in the 1960s, it resulted more in civil rights movement, which had clashes between our citizens and the police. And there's different operational styles. After police officers are trained and begin to gain experience, it's believed that they develop operational styles. Well, that's really for anything, not just particularly police. And when we look at operational styles, James Q. Wilson, he found 3 styles: legalistic, which emphasizes on violations of law and the use of threats; a watchman, an emphasis on an informal means of resolving disputes and problems; or service, an emphasis on helping the community as opposed to enforcing the law. And these different operational styles from James Q. Wilson are still looked at today. So the police officers that you interact with on a daily basis, think about that. Or if you've ever interacted with a police officer, were they more legalistic, that they were just black and white, all about the rules of the law? Were they watchmen, where they were informally really trying to dissolve disputes? Or were they service, where they really focusing on the greater good and not necessarily the whole black and white? Well, a number of scholars have tried to categorize them. It's difficult to categorize them into one because sometimes each officer, reacts differently based on the situation. And for gosh sakes, police officers are human, so it really depends. That word discretion, they have a lot of discretion. So a lot of times it's based on how you respond to what they're asking. So do you think that they were out of line with asking you whatever they asked you? If you do, if you think they're out of line and you don't trust them, then you're going to react differently. So research shows that police do not have a monolithic culture, just one way of doing it, and the police officers in the same department can possess significantly different roles. And you would expect that too, because again, our police officers aren't robots. They have good days and bad days, and maybe they've been in their job for a long time and they feel frustrated and overworked, and if so, then they might be more than likely to not be responsive. So 3 levels of police. They have local, which is the majority of personnel. We have state police. We have 49 departments, none in Hawaii, and the Texas Rangers were among the first. And then we have federal agencies. We have no single agency has unlimited discretion. I'm going to repeat that. No single federal agency has unlimited discretion. Their function is determined by very specific laws, and primarily they are in an investigative function. And this is just a chart of looking at all the different types of policing. But police, as an organization, they follow a chain of command. And so you go from the bottom up. So patrol officers, those are your folks that walk the beat. Those are your initial, sometimes they're not always new officers. Some officers really just enjoy being a beat officer, and so they'll stay in that position for a very long time. Then you have sergeant or inspector, lieutenant, captain, major, deputy or assistant chief, and then you have what we call chief of police or police chief. Know that these are all about time and rank. So you have to spend typically years in a certain position before you can actually test out to the next level. And so, again, this just kind of tells you directly what their duties are within their office based on their different types of jobs. And like I said, they are the most visible. Police are the most visible. Sometimes they're the only ones that the public have touch with in regards to the criminal justice system. And so it really becomes this, well, what do? Are they there to protect and detect crime? Are they there to apprehend criminals? Are they there to defend constitutional rights? Do they resolve community conflicts, protect society, promote and preserve civil order? And some folks would say that, well, there's two different basic roles. One is order maintenance, where they keep the police, preventing situations from getting out of hand. They provide services such as transportation, rescue animals, they change tires. And this is, in fact, 80 to 90% of their time. It's amazing, but 80 to 90% of their time, they are considered order maintenance officers. And then the other time is 10 to 15% of the time, which is a crime fighter. Traditional view of police is portrayed by the media, and that's where they're out, arresting, apprehending criminals. When we look at patrol has been a really big element that's been heavily researched on police, because what do we mean by patrol? What happens to patrol? How quickly do people respond to that call for service? And so when we talk about patrol, we mean it's a means of deploying police officers and that give them the responsibilities in a defined area. Often your beat requires them to make regular circuits, right? So patrol is called the backbone of the department by administrators, the most time-consuming and resource-intensive task. And so this is what they do. Respond to, burglar alarms, investigate traffic accidents, the care for injured people, try and resolve domestic disputes, respond to radio calls, different types of patrol. It could be a canine, it could be a bike, you could be on a horse, you could be on a motorcycle, you could be in a helicopter. And so again, they are to deter crime by being visible, they are to maintain public order, they are to respond quickly to emergencies, arrest as needed, they aid citizens in distress, movement of police and traffic, and create a sense of safety. And so this is really interesting to see, like, all of the time of what they do. This is the distribution of an officer's time. And sometimes when we look at the TV shows where we only see that really hardcore, where we're really going after the police are really going after an alleged perpetrator, well, that's clearly not all that they do, but that is what the general public thinks that they do.